Greetings, Chudlings. Welcome to another episode of Chuddy's Corner. It's been a very technically hectic last 24 hours for the Chuddy's Corner crew. As you can see, our intro music is gone. Working on figuring that out on the back end. Not sure what happened there. Possible cease and desist on the horizon, which would be our second, which means we really made it at that point. And also, last night's episode, a beautiful, lovely, wonderful episode, lost to the technological gods. It's sitting in a cloud somewhere. And maybe one day it'll come back. It'll be sort of like a lost episode. But for the sake of our chudlings, everyone who relies on us for their Celtics recaps, we are re-recording the Celtics Rockets recap from the game that happened last night, January 13th. Today, though, it's January 14th. It's about 2 p.m. A nice little matinee podcast for us here. And we'll be recapping the Celtics beat down the Rockets, 145-113. Ime Udoka's return to the Garden, return to play against the Celtics. Celtics go to 19-0 in the season, at home on the season, 30-9 overall. So we'll get into it. I am your host, Dugouts. With me, as always, Chuddy, King Chuddy. How you doing today?
Doing well. We've all been up, grinding, working the midnight oil overnight. It's hard work. Podcast does not sleep, I can assure you. So we're just happy we're finally here, getting this out. Hopefully this will be published to the masses, and the fans out there will get to hear this very soon.
I almost feel like I should just be like recording this on like my phone in the background just in case. But
right.
I think we'll be all right. I think the intro music is like a totally new issue that just popped up. But
yeah, and we do want to say
I don't hate that drum roll either. There's a lot of other kind of like funny ones here.
That's definitely not the end of the world. But I do want to say, if it is something cease and desist related, that we want it to be very, very clear that we both love Stove God Cooks, huge fans of his music. We're definitely not attempting to steal or pirate anything from him in any way. We've both actually paid good money to see him in concert. So yes, huge fans. He is definitely a friend of the show. So we don't want that to get twisted. If there's anything, we're more than happy to work with Mr. Cooks on that one. So
yes, this can be a lucrative partnership for the both of us.
We're happy to have you on the pod. Yeah, anytime to discuss. I'm sure we can work something out.
The drum roll has introduced me though. There's a lot of other fun options here. You might have to start incorporating a few of these, like so I think I might actually start going a little bit more crazy on this soundboard. But anyway, we got to get into this podcast. We got to give the people the recap of the game. But before we do that, make sure that you're following the show on Twitter at Chuddy's Corner. Make sure you're following me at Doug_outs. Make sure you're following Chuddy at King Chuddy. And also make sure that you're subscribing to the podcast wherever it is that you are consuming the podcast, whatever platform you're on. Make sure you go to subscribe to the YouTube page. We got video episodes up on YouTube. But yeah, so we'll get right into it. Our sponsor, nickperino.com. Shout out to Nick, being very understanding of the technical issues. I know, he pays good money for these episodes, so he wants those out. So we'll definitely do appreciate Nick Perino Real Estate for all they do for the team. But yeah, I'll get right into it. It was a good night for both the Jays. 32 points for Jaylen, 27 points for Tatum. Tatum probably would have gotten a few more points had he not found himself ejected. We're going to get into that too later on. But for now, I'll pass over to you, Chuddy. Why don't you give us a quick little recap of the game, and then we'll get into some of the other topics.
Yeah, so this was nice, much-needed win, nice palate cleanser after that kind of disaster class in Milwaukee the other night. It was good to see within like the first minute of the game that it was like, oh, okay, we're back, making our shots. And I think they really went out and kind of justified everything we said about the Bucks, how that's just kind of a one-off, a burn the tape type of game. If there was like any hangover or carryover from that, came out ice cold again, then maybe it would have been like, okay, wait, what's going on? But I think they came out, and it didn't take long for them to convince me that game was just a total blip on the radar. Back to your regularly scheduled programming last night. The team came out, I thought, very sharp on offense. I thought the ball movement was excellent, really all game long, but right out of the gates. And you could see typical first quarter Jaylen coming out, getting into his spots, hit a couple mid-range jumpers. I think as a team, it felt like they hit more shots in the first 5 minutes than they did the entire game against Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Defensively, I thought could have been a little sharper in the first half. It seems like, man, when the Rockets run that offense through Van Vliet and Alperen Şengün, they get pretty good shots like almost every single time. It's impressive how much they kind of keep them afloat. But when those guys go to the bench, it's a huge drop-off. The rest of their players, they have good depth and they have a lot of good young players, but it seems like so many of them, their game at this point is just like driving into your body as hard as they can and kind of hoping something good happens. It's like half their strategy on offense. But in the first half, it was kind of working. I thought we were letting them get into the lane way too easily. It seemed like they were getting a lot of good shots. So I love the way the Celtics were playing, but it seemed like the Rockets were hanging around.
Yeah.
They were winning at one point until the Celtics went on a little 10-0 run. And then at the end of the first quarter, when Tatum came back in from his first rest, he really took off and kind of took the game over. He had 17 points in about 8 minutes of play at the from the end of that first quarter into the beginning of the second quarter. And I thought he was just playing really masterful basketball. I know Brown was the high man and he played well, but it seemed like Tatum totally took over that game. You could tell Udoka was trying to throw doubles at him, and he was just making the right read every single time. Like he only had 5 assists, but it seemed like his passing was absolutely incredible. Every time they sent the double, it was like he was making the right read. A lot of those hockey assists that were one pass away to another guy, and a lot of those potential assists where it seemed like we were getting whatever looks we wanted, missing some, especially around the rim, which is always kind of frustrating. But I thought Tatum's passing was really, really good. He had a couple of those skip passes where he'd go one guy away, hitting guys in the corner for wide open shots. And then, of course, Tatum continues to have the jumper going, the pull-up three, all the stuff we want him to cut out. Now it's just falling, and it's like every year, I don't even know why we get worried about it, because this is the trajectory of every Jayson Tatum season. Starts off cold with slumping for a couple months, and then in January, the calendar turns, and he just absolutely goes into psycho mode for these few months. So it seems like we're in the start of that, because the last handful of games, throwing out that Milwaukee weirdness, he's just been absolutely dominant in basically every way.
We don't talk about that game. We burned that tape.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot. My bad. But yeah, no, Tatum was absolutely sensational, I thought. Completely dominated the game. Again, at one point, I think if the game remained close, he had a chance to get a triple-double the way he was playing. He was really doing it all. They had no answers. They tried having Dylan Brooks on him. He figured that out pretty quickly, and then it was just a very healthy dose of double teams, which, again, was basically resulting in a basket for the Celtics, or at least a very clean look every single time. But again, the Rockets were hanging around. It was 51-50 late in the second quarter. They were playing really well, kind of matching us with scoring. Again, we weren't putting up a ton of resistance on the perimeter, but things really seemed to shift those last few minutes of the second quarter. Big run by the Celtics to push it out to an 11-point lead, and you could kind of feel the momentum shifting. It seemed like that was going to snowball, and sure enough, started the second half on a 7-0 run, pushed the lead up to about 20, and the Rockets never got it within 10 the rest of the game. Third quarter was a bloodbath. I think we ended up winning at like 43-28. Definitely clamped up a bit on defense, made life a lot harder for them. But then the offense just was so good, and the shots started falling, and it was a 3-point party, especially that quarter. Jaylen couldn't miss. Tatum couldn't miss. Seemingly whoever came in, we shot, I think, over 50% or right under it as a team from three-point land. I think we were like 24 of 47 or something crazy. And I think out of the guys who played, I think 10 guys attempted a three for the Celtics, and 8 of them were 50% or better on three, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Drew, I think, was 1 of 4, and Hauser was 2 of 8. Everyone else was 50% or better. I think Jaylen and Tatum was, I think, 4 of 7, and Brown was like 4 of 6 or something from 3.
Yeah, 4 threes for Jaylen. I feel like he's usually not up there that much.
No, but it was, I mean, Jaylen's game in general, he had 32 points on 11 of 15 shooting. It's just outrageous efficiency.
That's awesome.
And I mean, again, Tatum, I felt like was the story because he was just controlling the entire game. But to get like secondary scoring like that from Brown is absolutely unbelievable. He continues to really just play, I think, the best basketball of his career. And it might not show up, like his stats could be higher, but the way he's doing it, the way he's contributing, and the way he's locking down on defense, getting rebounds, doing other stuff, and scoring this efficiently is just insane.
He had a great, and this I guess is the kind of the benefit of re-recording the podcast the next day is I kind of get to digest a lot of that. Like post game stuff, and he kind of just basically went like right ahead and said that he's like, defense is kind of where I'm looking to improve this year. Like I feel like every year I've improved a different part of my game. He just seems to be just super focused on again becoming a more elite defender, and then also the mid range shot. He had that one sequence too, which kind of encapsulates the two things that I think he's improved on most. Where he had kind of that little fadeaway kind of spin around jump shot. And then right down the court on the other end, he just stuffed the shit out of the ball.
Oh, yeah. He had 2 crazy blocks on Jabari Smith. One that pin block, he pinned a dunk off the backboard, and then Jabari tried to do like a turnaround fadeaway, and Jaylen it was like the little kid playing against his dad in the driveway, the way he blocked that, like, this is not happening. Yeah,
so like that sequence there, I feel like just like it kind of perfectly encapsulates, I feel like where Jaylen's game is heading this year. So and the efficiency too, you mentioned it. Would you say like 11 for 15 or something like that? So yeah, 11.
Crazy.
I have right here. Yeah, 11 for 15, 4 for 6 from 3.
Yeah, I mean, that's
yeah,
insane efficiency for that volume. Again, scored
32
points, and he only played
28 minutes.
28 minutes. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
28 minutes.
crazy. We probably haven't talked enough about Jaylen's defense. Honestly, this whole year he's been exceptional. He's been taking on a lot of tough matchups. We probably should have talked more the other night in the Timberwolves game about how he took Ant Edwards in those last minutes and really shut him down in the fourth quarter and overtime.
Yeah.
Really both Jays, but especially Jaylen taking that on. And he's stepped up and he's found ways where it's like you don't have to score 40 points a night to be an all-star caliber player. And again, after kind of a slow start where some people were questioning him, I think at this point he's been back to, again, all NBA level, if not better. I think this is the best all-around he's ever played, and he's found how to fit in on this team perfectly well. So it was beautiful to watch. He had a great game. Again, both Jays had a great game. The game was pretty much over by the end of the third quarter. I don't think Jaylen went back in. Tatum, of course, did stay in the ball game. And as you mentioned, he went to the rim hard. Cam Whitmore got him pretty blatantly on the arm as he attempted a dunk.
Yeah.
No call. Tatum snapped at him a little bit, got a tee. Just kept jawing at him and got a second tee quickly. Got his money's worth. He was pointing and yelling at him. He was pretty fired up. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm like not at all bothered by this. I'm pretty confident that he saw it was a 30-point game. He probably realized he was coming out for the night anyway. Like it was kind of like weird he was even in there at that point.
Think he even said that in his post-game press conference.
Yeah,
I think he was like, I'm pretty aware. Like I knew, like, you know, when it was pretty much almost over anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it is crazy. Like that was clearly a foul, and it's just like I just feel like a player too of his caliber too. He's still not getting like some of those calls and stuff like that.
Tough whistle.
And he's not like a free throw merchant either. He's not like going out just like looking to like try to get fouled. He's trying to finish takes and things like that, and he still just gets none. I noticed too. I think this might have been Derek White's father on Twitter that pointed this out, that a lot of these like technicals, like these ticky-tack technicals, it's all coming from like these like young-ass refs. Like I don't know at all. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't recognize them at all. And they're all just like, they're
not
just
good.
terrible. They just power trip crap. I did also want to make the point too that during Tatum was shooting a free throw earlier in the game, and they whistled and called a technical on Dylan Brooks, and then
during the free throw,
and
like they blew the whistle.
I think he missed it.
He did.
And they didn't let it. And then he thought he was going to shoot it again because they blew the whistle. Like, no. It's like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Yep. It's amateur shit.
It really is. And I mean, again, we won by 32 points. The game was pretty much out of question, so it didn't really matter. But that's why I have no problem with him saying, you know, it was time to stick up for myself and to make my point. And I think that's if ever there's a time to do it. Like I said, I was watching the TV, seeing that the Rockets had deep bench guys in on their end, and I'm wondering why the hell is Tatum even still in there? So maybe he was kind of thinking the same thing and figured, I'll go out with a little bit of style tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad he got his money's worth.
Yeah, so I had no problem with that at all. I think again, it's anytime you can.
That ref just looks like a little weasel too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's all these. Like, I don't know. I used to really think that some of the old guard refs were terrible, but it's just like I don't recognize any of the refs anymore. And
I know it's like they're all just like I miss Scott Foster. Like you start to see
Joey
maybe some of the guys aren't so bad. Yeah,
where's Joey?
Right. I can deal with their shittiness more than this.
Yeah. I also I think we should mention too Porzingis. He had 17.7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks. Yeah. He shot 6 for 11 from the field. This
got
is
the
more
3
just
falling
like
a little bit.
Yeah, and this is more just he did. He had the 3 falling too. He was 3 for 5 from 3. This is kind of like more just like a big picture thing. It's like we've definitely mentioned it before. It's just like I can't. It's just so wild how perfect of a fit he is with like the team. Like, and it's one of those things where it's like I never in a million years would have like thought like when I watched the team play the last few years that it's like, oh, we just need like a tall like athletic shooting tall guy. But like now just watching it's just almost just like what an like incredible like missing piece to have to get like on the team.
Right.
I think it's just he just brings such a different element, and I think he makes everything for all the other guys a lot easier. The pick and roll with involving him, it's just like teams have no real like option like what to do. Like I feel like in the past we didn't have a whole lot of size. The size that we did have wasn't necessarily like out there to score. Some of the big guys we've had in the past, obviously Al still hit shots and stuff like that, but
it's very different.
Exactly. It's very different than just the fact that on those pick and rolls, he can pop out. He can
Mhm.
draw guys out. I think that's making it easier for especially Jaylen to get into the lane.
Yeah.
It's just every game I watch, I'm just more and more just like, holy shit. And again, it's documented. I was very upset when we lost Marcus Smart. I had mixed feelings on Porzingis. A lot of it centered around his health concerns.
Mhm.
But overall, like just an amazing fit.
Yeah.
It's everything that this team needed. And it's like I would have never had guessed that, like watching them
Yeah.
before. It's like now you see it, it's almost like seems like obvious. It's like, oh yeah, what the hell? I mean, obviously that's why I guess they don't pay me to make the roster decision for the team, but I don't know. It seemed like the team was fine. And then now we bring him in and it's like, wow, no, there actually was something missing. And this guy is filling it in like incredibly.
Right.
And he just seems like he's just a great like teammate too. Everyone seems to be getting along pretty well too. Obviously him and Jaylen,
the bros,
roommates, yeah, like roomies or whatever.
Yeah.
So once that they drive to games together, that's like hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just like
they live in the same building.
Yeah.
Carpool.
So
great.
it just that would just be like so fun. Just imagine like pulling up to a red light and you look over and it's Jaylen Brown and Porzingis.
Imagine being their Uber driver.
Yeah, like what the fuck? Yeah. Chris Staff's 5-star rider. It's like, could this be? Yeah. But I think, and again, tonight I think was more about Jaylen and Tatum, stat wise and like an impact of the game wise. But again, there's just some points in the game where I'm just like watching, and it probably circles around when the three's falling for him because that to me is just such a game changer. But it really is incredible that we got Porzingis and how well that's been working out so far. So
well, and I think like you said, and like we've said before, the team before like last year was fine and was good. Obviously, the last 2 years we were as close to a title as anyone could come without winning one. So it's like it's not that the team was bad necessarily, but it's like we almost added this bonus where it's like now we have a whole new element of the team. And like you said, it's not even always. We've seen nights where he scores 30 points or so, but it's almost doesn't need it. It's just what he brings to the team and what he adds again
out there,
with his spacing, right? It's like if he's outside of the paint, it's so wide open, and that's where you're seeing Jaylen and Tatum get right into the paint. We saw Derek White had a few times where he drove in, and it was like Derek was almost surprised that no one was under there, and he's like, "Oh shit, I just have like a wide open layup, nice." And a lot of it is because Porzingis is dragging out the other team's usually rim protector and biggest guys have to guard him because that's the thing we've seen in years past. As good of a shooter as Al is, Al's a catch and shoot 3-point shooter, like with a set shot, it takes him a minute. He's a willing shooter, but he's not like ever out there looking for his own shot. With Porzingis, if he's out there running a pick and pop, like you can't leave him. And if you dare him to shoot, like he's way too good of a shooter. He's a sniper. He looks for his own offense. He can dribble in and dunk it.
Well, that's it too. That I think that's like the crazy part too is that how the way he can like if you kind of get out there to contest that three, the way he can back down and just shoot over guys. It's like. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just super impressed by it. And again, I know when he first came in the league with the Knicks, it was like he was like a superstar. It was like great. Obviously, things didn't go well. He was with the Mavs. Things didn't work out with Luka on the Warriors team. I didn't really see a whole lot of him because he's on. Wizards. I'm sorry. Didn't really see a whole lot of him because who the fuck wants to watch the Wizards? So when he came here, you Chud's raising his hand. If you're not watching on YouTube, you just missed Chuddy raising his hand. I know that he's a real NBA sicko, but yeah, I don't know. That's funny. I don't know. Yeah. It's awesome to watch. And it's just working out better than I could have like ever imagined. So
and
so
like
far,
you said,
so
too,
good.
Even as good as Al is, and as good as Rob Williams was. With all that stuff we just said about Porzingis, there's still just that other element where it seems like, a few times a game and sometimes more, if there's any semblance of a mismatch on him, like you cannot switch the pick and roll. If teams try to switch, he will go right under the hoop, put his hands up, you throw it to him, it's an automatic 2 points. It's a foul or it's 2 points every single time. I love
him just like back down like little guards for like 2 seconds and then just turn around like...
It'll be like Sengun last night. It was huge center, but it's like if Porzingis gets the ball low enough, he jumps and holds it high. No one's contesting that. It's like he basically just like drops it into the hoop almost. So if he gets down there with that position, and I think the guards and the Jays are learning still. Like they're still getting used to this, but I think they're starting to learn more and more, like to look for that and like, oh shit, if he's down there and has positioning, we just throw it up high to him, get him the ball, and that's an easy hoop. And again, with the shooters and the guys we have around him, like you can't even really send help. So it's like
I was just gonna say if people close in on him, then
kick it out. Right. And our ball movement has been exceptional. And like all those guys know there's been good post players who you throw it in there and you know that they're shooting. Like he's a willing passer. He's a good passer. He's an underrated passer. That's been probably one of the biggest things I've learned about Porzingis watching him is that he's willing to pass and he's a very good passer. And it's, again, I think it's one of those things that's contagious. When the team's moving the ball like they were last night, you know it's going to get back to you. You're going to get rewarded. And it was a bunch of that passing up good shots to get great shots. And last night we were hitting them. It was good to see everyone going. Derek, who's been slumping, I think went 3 for 5. He hit 2 in a row at one point. It was good to see him getting those threes going again. So, kind of a get-right game, like I said. You knew they were going to come out fired up after what happened in Milwaukee. You knew they were going to come out fired up to play against old friend Ime Udoka, and yeah, you could see it, and I kind of felt bad for the Rockets. Again, it was like they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it would be unfair if I didn't mention, because we did spend a ton of time bitching about the scheduling last game, and rightly so. The Rockets, I mean, credit to them. They played Monday night, Wednesday night, Friday night, and then had to play on Saturday. All road games, all in different cities. So just an absolutely brutal scheduling stretch for them. So basically a scheduled loss for the Rockets, who are a good team and, you know, have a really good defense. And I think we saw glimpses of why they're good and how good they are. But it's just, again, like, you see those matchups after that kind of road trip and with that lack of rest, and like you have no chance. So the odds were very stacked against them coming in. They fought valiantly for most
they
of the
definitely
game.
just kind of ran out of gas because they kept it close for almost the whole. I don't know at some point it was like 50. It was close to like 50-50 at some point.
It was 51-50 was the score. Mid to late second quarter. So yeah.
But yeah, what do you have any thoughts on just like Ime's return in general? Anything on that?
Nothing really. It seemed like it was kind of a mixed reaction. I was kind of thinking, like, as a fan, if you're in the house, like, do you cheer him? Do you boo him? Do you just not really react at all? Like, I don't know. He had some comments before the game that were interesting. He basically just said that his biggest regret was just letting people down. Understandably, he just said, like, you know, the job wasn't finished. He was looking forward to coming back and finishing it, and he just felt like he left a lot of people down. I thought it was interesting. I also thought it was interesting. They asked him about Mazzulla, because Mazzulla, I think, was there as an assistant. Like, Mazzulla was a Brad guy.
Yeah.
He was one of the few Brad guys who stayed. And Ime basically said he wanted to get rid of him, but he said Smart, Al, and Jaylen talks them into keeping Joe.
Yeah.
Which, first of all, is interesting because he very clearly didn't say Tatum, which is funny because everyone always says how much Tatum is an Ime guy through and through. So that was kind of funny. Second of all, I don't know, it felt a little bit like petty. Like, first of all, you're a brand new rookie head coach. Like, I'm not even sure that's your decision to make, but I don't know. It didn't seem like he was exactly like giving Joe his flowers. I guess he kind of was.
He kind of, he said he was like a good guy. He did say that he was like ambitious, which I feel like is like almost as being like
backhanded, like
he couldn't like wait to get in my chair. But then he also said like I kind of like having ambitious because like I think he looks at it as like I want guys who want to become head coaches because that means that they're going to work their ass off for me. So I did see it was interesting. So I guess before I get into that point, I'll just mention I don't think that there's any reason to necessarily like boo Ime. I mean, I don't think that he needs like a standing like tribute video type thing either. Just because he did kind of fuck us over.
But at this point, like we're past it. Everything's fine. We moved on. Like why even dwell on it? Right.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I think. I think it's just kind of like say la vie. I hope everything works out well for him in Houston. I still would just love to know what actually happened. Like, I would just love, like, there's just
honestly impressive that it still isn't known.
Yeah, and
like everyone was kind of ripping the Celtics.
A quote too about it where he was like, we kind of had heard some things about what it was. Then we heard like a bunch of rumors about this other stuff, and he was like, but those all kind of ended up not being like true. So it is kind of because like, I mean, when it first happened, people were like, oh. I know what it was. Ime, he'll never coach again. Like, Matt Barnes or something like that? Was like, don't come to my house and kick my ass, Matt Barnes. I'm just pointing this out. Like, he was like, it's like, oh, I know what it was. And it's like so bad. Like, he'll probably never coach again. Like, and like, I remember a lot of people, like in like kind of the Celtics, like, universe too, were sort of saying something similar. It's just like, no, like if they're gonna fire him, it must have been something like so horribly, terribly bad. It's just like, I don't know. It just seems like he was just fucking the wrong person and he just wouldn't stop. Which
that's definitely what it seems like.
The heart wants what the heart wants, I suppose.
Yeah, seems that way, certainly.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I like Ime. I like him as our coach.
Exactly. At this point,
I don't want to. It's not taking nothing away from Joe. I enjoyed him as our coach. If he was still the coach, I'd be happy with it. I thought that he was a great fit when they hired him. He seemed like the players really liked him and stuff too. It was brutal that he had to go, but at this point, I'm pretty much past it.
And it seemed like that's how the game was last night. Like it was a thing for 5 minutes, and then the game started, and it was kind of like, oh, whatever. It's just a normal game. Like
did you take anything out of him just kind of like leaving right after the game, not really dapping out any of the players? I think Peyton Pritchard was nearby
with Pritch.
Yeah.
Well, Tatum's his boy. Tatum obviously had already left. So
Yeah.
I don't know. No,
Yeah.
honestly, I didn't really. And like, think of the turnover. Like, who's even there? The Jays and Horford, like, and then like bench guys, but like Smart,
Yeah.
Rob, Grant, like all those guys that were kind of his guys. Even
Yeah.
whoever else, Tice, Malcolm, I don't know, Rob. Like, no one's really around anymore.
I mean,
JB,
Missoula didn't know like don't the coaches usually like exchange something like?
did they not? Like they
I saw
they weren't
he
showing the whole
basically
thing.
like he basically gave Pritchard was like right nearby and he kind of hugged, which is it's funny because I feel like he wasn't really a huge Pritchard guy. I think he had, like even had like comments about Pritchard like doing too much, but so I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Probably maybe reading a little bit too much into it, but it was interesting. I think that like you said, I think it was once again kind of got underway. A lot of that the like drama and like build up to it kind of fell flat, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to to see how things go for him in Houston. I feel like there's a lot more trouble he can get into in Houston than there is in Boston, but so hopefully he's got that part figured out.
I think Ime is the kind of coach who's like a culture setter and a culture changer, and I think he came here and did that, even though it was only 1 year. Like, I think he kind of did what needed to be done, and you'd hope that the guys can like take those lessons and be like, okay, like I don't think they're just gonna forget what he taught them, like just because you don't have some lunatic in your face like telling you how much you suck.
I mean, there's still kind of a lunatic. He's just not. Yeah. I did see Jaylen made some comments about his different coaches. He said that when he was with Brad, Brad was more of like a call every play, focus on tape, focus on preparation, like very like micromanage and stuff like that. He said Ime was more of a like just like go out there, make plays and things like that. And then he said now Joe is kind of like a little bit of both, where like when they're on the court, it's like there's a lot of like go out there, find the plays, make the plays, but there's a lot of that like preparation stuff that Brad used to do like beforehand, like there's a lot of tape and stuff like that. Yeah. So it sort of seems like Joe is
like
kind
the right
of like,
balance.
Yeah, exactly.
Like those two are like good building blocks, and now I think we're good with where we ended up. And I think the Rockets, as much as probably any team in the NBA, they needed a culture change. They've sucked and have been not even a real team. And again, I think they won 19 games, or I think they won 20 games all of last year. They're like 20-62, and they've already are 19-19. So again, credit. He's obviously a good coach, and he's obviously good at getting the most out of players.
Yeah.
So I mean, they have a more talented roster, but he's had focus on defense that has not been there, and he's quickly turned things around. So again, kudos to him. Happy for him. Happy for the Rockets. No beef, no malice. And yeah, I think it's just has worked out as well as it basically could have for all parties involved.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out, Ime. If you ever want to come on the pod to discuss what really happened, we will gladly give you a platform to give your side of the story.
This is really the best spot for him to break that news.
There's a chance that the podcast might just disappear into the cloud anyway. So you have that.
Yeah,
so
there you
could get lucky. All right, yeah. So I think that Ime was kind of the big thing there. Do you have anything else specific on this game? I just wanted to point out that I thought that Pritchard was absolutely balling out in that.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it garbage time. Do you see him get a little bit like testy with the reporter? They call it garbage time.
No, he's playing
which is fair for him. It's like that is a weird question to ask like a player. It's like well, the fuck, like that's like the time.
Right.
Like how they
especially like what he said is his usual shifts is he usually comes in at the start of the second quarter and the fourth quarter. So he's like, that's just like when I play. It's not my fault. We're beating the shit out of them so bad that they have all their scrubs in by the time it's my turn to play. Like it's not like he's some end of the bench. Like he's a legit part of the rotation. You know?
Yeah, exactly. He's just like he's just there to be the point guard, kind of like the anchor.
It's not like it's one thing if you're asking after Lamar Stevens. It's like Richard's legitimate backup rotation player who plays every game.
Yeah.
Like,
but he was balling. It was like a lot of that like Drew League Pritchard, which is good.
Right. Pro AMP.
Yeah. Big lot of celebrities in the crowd. I saw 50 Cent, the interview with Ice Cube. Ice Cube seems to be a big Jaylen Brown fan. Also loves Scal. Give a shout out to Scal. I think Scal played in the Big Three or something.
He did, yep, exactly.
Yeah. So that was interesting. 50 Cent. I saw a picture of Deuce and 50 Cent.
About the same height.
Yeah, I know. That's that picture. I'm like, is Deuce standing or what's going on? Like, is 50 sitting? Like, this is crazy. Like, I know we make jokes about how tall Deuce is, but I don't think he could possibly be that tall.
No, that was funny.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I don't really have a whole lot of other
I just had a couple small notes from the game.
Al Horford appreciation game. He was a plus 30. He's just like unreal.
Al was awesome. So one of my notes was also just watching for extended stretches in both halves the Al versus Jeff Green matchup, where it's just like these guys, like,
they've each played over 1,000
what a good
games.
wholesome like matchup of two guys who just like, does anyone in the league like not respect either of those guys?
Yeah.
Like they both have such like old man games, but are both still like such awesome like role players who have just maximized their skill to the point where like they've lost so much speed and athleticism, but they're so effective just like focusing on the things they're good at. And I was just really enjoying watching those two go back.
Yeah, no, that was fun.
What a good pairing.
We got some Boban time too.
Yeah, Boban came in at the end. That's always fun. Would have liked to see him in there next to Porzingis, but that's all right.
Is he like they're like Taco Fall now at this point? Does he only play when they're okay? That's good. Good for him.
Yeah. They showed a cool stat during the game that Jaylen is, at least at the time of the game, is the only player in the whole league with over 50 dunks and over 75 threes.
Yeah, I saw that. That was
not like super meaningful, but kind of cool.
I like it.
Tatum was on there. Tatum was like third in that too. Yeah. He only needs like 3 more dunks or something. Yeah. It's just kind of a fun stat. Also, in terms of announcer talk, I don't know if you've heard in the beginning of the first half, when Jeff Green first checked in, Scal was like, Jeff, he's like, that's my guy. I owe that guy my life. And Mike was just like, yeah. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I won't get into it right now, but he saved my life.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, how do you not tell more? Like, how do you not expand on that story?
That was some serious honey dicking right there.
You're just going to drop that and never, like, especially in the fourth quarter, where it's like, all right, it's pure garbage time. If ever there was a time to go, like, off script and tell this story you teased about Jeff Green literally saving your life, like, come on, Scal. You can't leave us hanging like that. So that was killing me. I also thought it was funny that we had talked, I forget if it was last game. It was one of the last home games. You had brought up how when it's Mike and Scal, there's kind of a lot of dead air where it seems like they're both just silent. Yeah. And Mike alluded to it where he even said, he's like, sometimes he's like, I just like to sit back and let the game breathe, because it was at a point where I forget what it was, but you could like hear some of the players saying something funny.
Like, just out of the blue?
Dude, well, yeah, because they were quiet, and one of the players said something, and it got picked up on the mic, and they were kind of laughing. I forget what it was. It was someone like bitching at the refs or something, but said something funny. And then Mike was like, he's like, that's why sometimes I just like to like be not say anything or something. So,
well, yeah, it works out well for that.
That was a funny touch. That was really it. And then after the game, I was watching a little of the press conferences, and someone asked Joe about Sam Hauser and how teams try to ISO him, basically, something we've talked about all year. Yeah. And I think Rockets did do it a few times last night and went 0 for 3 ISOing on him. And Joe actually said, he's like, or they asked if Joe like was surprised. He's like, I'm not surprised. Like, he's always been a good defender. He's like, people don't think that. He's like, he's a white guy who can shoot. He's like, yeah, I said it.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, basically saying what everyone's thinking. But I mean that we've talked about it nonstop. People take a look at Hauser and they're like, oh, that guy can't guard me. And they go at him, and he just proves over and over again he's just a really solid defender.
Yeah. Yep.
So that was funny. But yeah, that's really all I got from this game. And then announcer talk, unless you got anything else to add.
No, that's about all I have. So let's do a little bit of around the NBA. This soundboard. This could be big.
I'm loving that. This is great.
We'll see if it doesn't screw up the editing on the back end, but this could be a lot of fun.
Hell yeah. Great stuff there. So first up and around the NBA, couple nights ago, I don't know if you're watching the Bulls-Warriors game or if you heard about this one, but at halftime in Chicago, they had a tribute to, I don't know if it was to a specific championship team or just the Bulls.
To the 95-96 Bulls.
Okay, so it was a tribute because Kerr was in the house, obviously, so he was part of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the main thing was they had Jerry Krause up there, who was obviously in the front office and helped build those teams and, left on some uncertain terms. Like, he had his ups and downs, but at the same time, he was the GM for winning 6 titles. Mm-hmm. He was introduced and booed heartily.
Well, so he's passed away.
Well, they were showing him, though, on the screen. Like, they were booing him. But yes, he's no longer with us. His widow was there. So it seemed like they were just raining down the boos on her. She was crying and looked like inconsolable. It was like
brutal.
It was really hard to watch. Ugly scene, like shameful for Chicago. Again, I'm like,
because the thing is, if it was him there, that's like, I feel like it's like fair game to boom.
But even still, like, so much time has passed, and the Bulls have been absolute garbage since this era. Like,
yeah,
appreciate.
But
what
I know
you
that they hated him then too. Like, they booed him. They booed him like back in the days. But like, yeah, I think if it's him there, you can kind of boo, because even if you saw in the Last Dance once they did that, and he was still like waving to the crowd, thank you. So if it's him, I feel like, again, it is a little bit weird because so much time has passed. Like, I bet you half the people in that crowd weren't even like alive for the Bulls night '96, or at least cognizant of what was going on.
Yeah, they probably were basing it on The Last Dance.
Yeah, but yeah, it was pretty. That was just brutal. I mean, I feel so bad for that lady. Like
awful.
Like it was almost like worse than when they put the camera on her. It's like she was almost being like, just stop.
She was, yeah.
Like,
she couldn't. God. It was horrible to watch.
Yeah, that was
the owner had to release a statement, basically supporting Krause, and the announcer.
I heard their like scowl, their play.
Stacey King, he went on.
I heard he was like ripping.
I mean, it's just
it's fucked
disturbing.
Up. Yeah. If it's him himself, it's. Again, you could say it's still weird, whatever, but at least it's like
fair game.
It's like widowed wife, like she's like, oh my god, that was some diabolical shit. Man.
Yeah, and again, I don't really know like how much the fans could see because again, on the jumbotron, it was showing Jerry and like a picture of him and stuff.
But I feel like they were all on the court, like they had to. I don't know,
right? But I don't know if you're in the upper deck and stuff.
You might not realize that's who she was or whatever.
Exactly,
I don't know.
Right. I didn't see the whole thing. I saw clips of the booing.
It was bad.
Yeah, it really.
A tough look. And I love too you say Stacey King is the guy's name?
Yeah.
I love when he's like, "We're not Philly, we're not New York." He's just like,
it's true though. Come on,
yeah, we're not one of those fucking scumbag cities. Like, we're Chicago. Like, it's
right.
Well, I don't know, man. You guys might have just slid yourself into that throwing snowballs at Santa territory.
Not great at all.
No, that was brutal. It was one of those things where at first I was like, wait. Am I supposed to? Then I was like, no, I'm not supposed to laugh. This is fucked up.
It wasn't. It really wasn't.
Yeah,
funny.
no.
If you watch it, it was like hard to watch.
Yeah,
so feel terrible for her. And if there are basketball gods or you believe in karma, the Bulls were winning by double digits at halftime, and then after that, they lost the third quarter by 28 points, 48-20, and got absolutely blown off the floor. So again, if you believe in any of that stuff, I think that's exactly what happened there.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's
I guess.
Good to hear.
It seems like it was warranted. I mean, nothing the players did, obviously, but
oh my god,
the fans in the building got what they deserved.
Yeah.
After that shameful display. So anyway, moving on. We mentioned that LaMelo Ball was back the other night. He did return on Friday. This was just kind of weird to me. I don't know if you noticed, but Woj had 5 tweets throughout the day about him being back and about how now he didn't have to cover up his tattoo anymore. To the point where it's just like, all right, dude, we get it. Like, no one gives a shit. Why are you tweeting so much about
suspicious?
this?
I don't know.
It was like bizarre behavior. It was like, okay, 5 tweets about this one thing is way too many from you. Who's like, save your tweets for like important breaking news.
Yeah.
1 tweet is more than enough about this non-story that nobody cares about. So it's like, again, sometimes it, like you said, just makes you think like, what's with like the Windhorst meme? It's like, why would he do that?
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened, but LaMelo returned, and they probably got boat raced by the Spurs, another one of the worst teams in the league. So great stuff there. But yes, very weird. If anyone has any theories on the Woj piece of it, let us know. We're happy to some of those Twitter detectives
or something. I don't know.
Or the company. Shit. Maybe a stock in the LF brand or whatever the hell it is.
That's a good point. We
gotta look at some paperwork on that one, I would say.
All right. Well, the intern's tied up with other stuff today.
Yeah, true. He's a little backlogged, but we'll make sure he gets to it at some point.
Busy crying.
Yeah, rightfully so. All right, a couple other notes around the league. I thought the Jazz, another big win last night. They beat the Lakers. They're 14-4 now in their last 18. They have a winning record, and they've climbed ahead of the Lakers and the Warriors. They're in 9th in the West now. So we keep saying the Jazz, everyone kind of, I think, just thinks they're a team that's like ready to sell. They're playing really good basketball, and at full health, they switched that rotation up. They got Colin Sexton and Chris Dunn starting, which brings a nice pop. They got Lowry Markkanen back and healthy. They're super deep. So they continue to be one of my favorite teams to watch. I love what they're doing, and seeing them climb ahead of these teams that, we don't exactly love is just been great to watch. So shout out to the Jazz. The Pacers also shockingly 2-0 now since Halliburton got injured. I think a lot of people thought they'd fall right off a cliff considering how much he does for that team, and really 3-0 if you count the Celtics win, because they basically won that game without him the whole second half, which is really when they beat us.
Yeah.
So either way, they were terrible last year. They lost him and basically completely fell out of the playoffs. I think a lot of people thought that might happen again. So again, small sample size, but still, for them to be winning any games without him is impressive. So good stuff. Hope they can keep that up. Another note last night, we've talked about how the Hawks have been one of the most disappointing teams in the league. and might be on their way to blowing it up. Well, last night they took one of their worst losses ever at home, losing 127-99 to the lowly Wizards in embarrassing fashion on their home court. So again, it seems like that team, as we're now under a month away from the trade line,
that's a blow it up move if I've ever heard one.
Ripe to blow things up. So you can kind of almost feel it mounting and feels like it's coming. Another note, more newsy. Last episode, I think it was, we talked about the Clippers' new arena that they'll be moving into next year, the Intuit Dome, Steve Ballmer's little pet project. It was announced since recording that they've won the rights to the 2026 All-Star Game. So good for them. That's pretty quick, although the Celtics were one of the teams vying for it, so they'll have to try again for 2027.
The last time they had an All-Star game in L.A., didn't Carmelo Anthony get his chain snatched? I don't know if that was the last one in L.A. I don't know when the last one they had in L.A. was.
Was that LA or Vegas?
No, I thought that was in LA.
Maybe.
Only because there's a rap song by The Game where he's talking about LA and he says they took Carmelo's chain at the All-Star game.
We'll get the intern on that one.
We're going to look at Carmelo's chain snatching incident.
Yeah, that's the stuff the fans want for sure. But will be interesting to see. It's in Inglewood is the new arena. So
yeah, always up to no good.
Right next to right next to SoFi Stadium where the Rams and Chargers now play. So yes, so but it's again like we were saying, it's not one of those like Anaheim, LA. Like they're still in LA, just not where the crypt is. And then the last piece of news, and this is the benefit, I guess, of us being able to re-record the next morning because this news had not broken when we initially did the recap.
Blockbuster.
But yeah, this is you'll remember where you were when you heard the news type of trade that will shift the entire landscape of the NBA.
Wait.
Massive.
All right.
Thank you. So, massive blockbuster. I'm sure you've heard by now. The Pistons and Wizards, two of the finest organizations in the league, came to a swap today. The Pistons sent out Marvin Bagley and Isaiah Livers and 2 second-round picks to the Wizards in exchange for a couple former Celtics, Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala. So
did those guys get traded together for the Porzingis? So they're just moving everywhere?
Yep, pretty much. So there isn't, obviously, I'm mostly being facetious, obviously there isn't a ton to take away from this trade, but there are a couple funny things. Chiefly that, the Pistons GM, Troy Weaver, has just been god-awful since taking the job. But one funny thing to point out is that a couple years ago, Weaver traded 2 second-round picks and Trey Lyles, who's like a pretty solid role player, to acquire Bagley. He then gave Bagley a 3-year, $37.5 million contract, bidding against seemingly himself because nobody else wanted him. So he traded 2 seconds and a good player, or at least a solid player for him, overpaid him by choice willingly, and now traded him, gave up 2 second-round picks basically to get rid of his contract. So just an absolute disaster class in asset management there. No idea what he's doing. Just all of those things are complete self-inflicted wounds. So anyone wondering why the Pistons are where they are, I think that would definitely be one of the first places to look.
To start.
Yeah, really pathetic. And I mean, Bagley's had some decent moments. So for the Wizards, they're just complete tank mode now. They, might as well take a risk on a guy who was a top 3 pick 5 years ago. And, if they can take some picks to take on a bad asset, it really doesn't matter to them. So fine piece of business for the Wizards. And I mean, in terms of on the court, one thing we have said ad nauseum is the Pistons just need any type of spacing around Cunningham and their Ivy to a lesser extent. So if Muscala and Gallinari can add anything at this point in their career, it is shooting. So at least on-court wise, I guess it makes sense if those guys can add anything. Again, neither of the teams are competing for anything.
I think this is the definition of that meme that's odds to win the championship before and after, when just nothing changes at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, this was just a move for the Pistons to get off of Marvin Bagley's contract. That's really it. They basically just gave up 2 picks to get off his contract. Every other guy in the deal is expiring at the end of this year, and obviously these teams are far from competitive. So that's all it is. Good opportunity to make fun of Troy Weaver. And it's also funny to me, too, that their plan is, opening up cap space, because all these guys are tweeting, wow, the Pistons might be able to have $60 million in cap space now. It's okay, great. What are you going to do with, who are you going to sign to, come to Detroit? The whole thing is just so silly, so outrageous. I can't believe Troy Weaver is still the GM of that team.
God bless him, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
hope
George Costanza
I
with the
hope Brad's on the
Yankees.
phone. I don't know what they have that could even help us, but if you can talk to them for us,
Try to
that'd be
get
great.
it off him, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you see? Speaking of the Pistons, the other night they had one of the Shacked in a Fool of the Year plays where they were inbounding the ball, and I think it was Killian Hayes maybe passed it in to Beef Stew, who was like coming towards him, and Stewart just didn't realize it was an inbounds pass. He just carried the ball out of bounds and passed it in again.
Oh,
So like
Jesus, I
the
didn't
ball
see
was
that.
live, and he just walked out of bounds to inbound it, and
Oh,
was immediately
God.
called for stepping out of bounds. It was just like,
That's not good.
yeah, I'll get the intern to post that. But it was just the most Pistonsy. Like if they make a low light, if they set a record for like worst record ever, this will be like one of the first few low lights on the clip. So
Pistonsy.
good stuff going on in Detroit.
All right, yeah, I love that. Is that all you got for around the league?
That's it.
All right. Why don't you give us a little bit on the Raptors, who are, I believe, coming to town?
No, we're going to
We're
Toronto.
going to their town.
Then we're home for the next two games, Spurs and Nuggets.
Okay, so we are going on the road to Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
We have no domestic abusers on our roster, like
Yep.
Miles Bridges. So.
Yeah, all our players should be allowed to go there. I don't know if there's any travel issues. I mean, obviously with the Buffalo football game rescheduled, so we kind of, I think, go somewhat that way to get to Toronto. I don't know if anything will be affected. Hopefully not, as that's the last thing we need is more travel issues. But assuming we get there and the game goes on as usual, should be a fun game. I'm looking forward to it. We've obviously played the Raptors, but this is a very different looking Raptors team as they've since made the trade, obviously getting rid of OG Anunoby. So they've taken a little step back on defense, but they've added Emmanuel quickly into the mix. They have a real point guard who can score and create. And RJ Barrett, who's actually played pretty well for them so far, kind of filling into his role. Pascal, they're kind of just showcasing for a trade. I know he missed a game recently, so I'm not sure if he will be back in action. But again, with this team right now, it's pretty much all about Emmanuel quickly, Scotty Barnes on offense. So two really good players. They are resembling a much better offense. They've just been a much better team since the trade, winning a few games and looking competitive in some other ones. So they're, I would say, not a team to be taken lightly, but definitely still a team we should be able to beat.
All right, I love it. So we'll see everyone back here tomorrow, Monday night, for the recap of the Raptors Celtics game. Appreciate everyone understanding, patience for the podcast. It's our first major technical issue, so we were able to navigate it as best as possible. And in the meantime, discovered a few new sound effects that we can use. So it's a glass half full type of situation, I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah. So with that said, Chuddy, everyone else, I will see you all tomorrow. Take care.
Peace out, Chuddy Heads.